Cliff Jumper, commence countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, ToyCast. Oh, yes. Listen in to the only toy podcast you will ever need.
Bugles are the White Castle version of chips.
Yes, they are. I like putting them on my fingers and pretending they're claws and then eating them.
Oh, God. I can just imagine a Dr. Claw bugle. Hello and welcome to a special episode of ToyCast. I am one of your hosts, TF Joe and Mike, and joining me from, well, now he's affiliated with Toy World Order, formerly of the Pop Culture Network, we have Puppet Duvall. Hello, sir.
Hi. How are you?
How are you?
I'm wonderful. What's going on, Mikey?
Oh, not much. Yeah, the last time you were on here was episode 78, which was supposed to be all about Superman toys, and I think we spent maybe 20 minutes of that hour-long show talking about Superman toys.
That's what happens. I start to ramble on to other subjects, and it just becomes a long, spiraling, out-of-control train that you just can't control, and you just got to go along for the ride.
Yeah. So you have transitioned. You were at one journey, and now you're on another. So inform everyone, because as I said, the last time you were on here, you were still involved with PCN. So tell everybody what the hell you've been up to and the new venture that you and your partners have going.
Well, you know, when after I left PCN, I took a long, well-deserved break, and then this past August we launched ToyWorldOrder.com to a little bit of fanfare, and then we kind of drew it back a little bit because we were really confused about how we wanted to go, how we wanted to proceed. But we've started to kick things into high gear with 2012, and you can find us on ToyWorldOrder.com. You can also follow us on Twitter underneath that same handle, Toy World Order. And we got a lot of good stuff going on. We've got a great toy news show that's getting ready to start up here really shortly. That's going to be a weekly video show. We've got Toy Adventures with Duvall that just started, as well as David Duvall's Toys and Collectibles podcast every week, and reviews. Just normal stuff. We're trying to stay away from becoming a news site per se because there's so many damn news sites out there, and I don't want to seem like I'm competition to some other news site. I don't want to. A lot of these news sites, not the people that I know, but a lot of them are just very hardcore, snobbish, kind of, we're better than you, we scooped you, nobody wants to work together anymore, and it's kind of a shame. So we decided we were going to stray away from the news and just mostly focus on reviews and original content. So,
well, see, the thing with the toy news sites, and I'm going to call a couple of them out here, toy news in general, not just any, okay, you could say TFW 2005, but that's just Transformers. I mean, yes, correct. They have their TFW2005.com has their network of, they have His Tank, which is G.I. Joe stuff, and they have other stuff. But, take something like Action Figure Insider. That's an all-genre-based toy news site. And they've been around for a while, and, something that's that established, there's no competition. I mean, it's kind of like a TV show that's been on for 25 years, and then whatever network it's on decides to air a new pilot. If the pilot doesn't last, if the pilot doesn't do well, and they decide, oh well, we're only going to give the show one chance. It's like, holy crap, just throwing the show under the bus.
Right.
The same thing with toy news is that, I prefer the more laid back, when Steve Megatron and I were doing All Things Transformers, which is his podcast, his Transformers News podcast, we would do 2 weeks worth of past news. So like the last 2 weeks from today, we would record that news, and we would record it late. We're not about, trying to get the latest scoop. Hey, if we get, if we break some news, that's great. But at the same time, it is way too stressful to try to get the latest and greatest scoop over someone else.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of sites that just do toy news better than anyone could. I mean, I'm looking at, Toy News International, Figures.com.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the two mainstays in my mind that have been around forever. That I mean, Figures.com's like one of the granddaddies. They've been around for as long as I can remember, and even working for them for a number of years. They were the ones that they were well connected. They had those guys knew everyone in the business, everyone in the industry. They had connections. I mean, I don't pay attention to them much anymore because I'm just so busy with other stuff. But I know for the longest time there, we were getting reviews. They get reviews direct from Hot Toys. They don't have to wait for Sideshow to get them into the States. They come directly from Hong Kong to them. I mean, that's how hooked up Figures.com is. And in my mind, it's just Figures.com and Toy News International, and then everyone else is second best right now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I don't say that to like piss anyone off or get under anyone's skin. I mean, that's just from working in this industry for so long that's one of the reasons why I won't do toy news. I mean, we did it at Pop Culture Network because it was a means to an end. We decided early on we weren't going to do it at Toy World Order because it really does nothing for us in the end. We're going to have just as many people coming to the site to see original content and reviews as we would with with toy news. So it just made no sense to us. We're like, well, there's better sites out there that are doing it. Those guys are doing it full time. I know the editor of Figures.com, that's his full-time job. That's all he does Monday through Friday is he sits in front of his computer at his house and gets paid pretty well to do it. And all he does is update stories all day. That's it. You can't compete with something like that on our level. It's like, I have a full-time job. BC Direct and David World, they work out in LA in the entertainment industry, and they, when they're working, you're talking 12, 14-hour days. They don't have time to do that stuff. So it was just like, why bother? Let's just stick to what we do best, and this is what we think we do best. So,
I mean, that's the same with us over here at GCRN with Geekcast Radio Network. I mean, for me, because I'm the one that has the most time, because
I was going to say there's a difference. You guys are like podcasting machines.
Right, but exactly. But see, that's the thing though. Like I can put for me, Geekcast Radio Network is my job, even though I don't get any money for it, which is fine. I'm happy with that because I love doing it.
Right.
But it's very stressful. I just looked at our show guide. We have, including one show that we syndicate, that has joined our network at the end of 2011, a G.I. Joe podcast called What's on Joe Mind. We have...
What's on your mind? Nothing wasn't on your mind. Nothing, man. What are you talking about?
We have a total...
I hate to interrupt you. I just have this image of Roadblock and Doc like hanging out in the ghetto. What's on Joe mind? I don't know. What's on Joe mind? Let's go beat some Cobra. Yeah, that sounds good.
Kind of reminds me of the vultures in Jungle Book. What you want to do? I don't know. What you want to do?
that very very urban-esque sounding voice. What you want to do? I don't know. What you want to do?
Yeah. So I mean,
racial ambiguity in the 50s was a wonderful thing. Apparently.
Oh, apparently so. And the sad part is all the four vultures were supposed to represent the Beatles.
Yeah, that's sad, isn't it? Man.
Yeah. The thing of it is, though, with GCRN, I looked at our show guide. Even with the shows that we have listed in the show guide that haven't started yet, we have a total of 24, 26 different podcasts. Some of them have ended. Some of them have come to their conclusional run, but still... Right. I'm recording, editing, and making posts of at least anywhere from 5 to 12 podcasts a week. I don't mind doing it. I'm not complaining about it. I love doing it. But it's time consuming. And, if you add on top of that having to do a weekly news show, whether it be video, whether it be audio, whatever, that's time consuming as well.
Right.
Especially if you have to get news from Hasbro, news from Mattel, news from Sideshow, news from Hot Toys, all these toy companies out there, That's a lot of freaking work. So I like the more laid back of, you and Dave just commenting on 2 week old news. It's much more relaxed, and you can still give your opinions on the news, but you're not actually reporting the news.
Well, what's funny about that is we did that for the first 3 weeks, and then this week we've actually pretty much like moved away from that completely because I think we talked about one news item, which was the NECA Rocky figures, but it's starting. I kind of wanted to. The more we talked, the more I was like, I think me kind of controlling the conversation and letting Dave tell stories about toys is so much more interesting to me because
Oh yeah,
there's so many stories that Dave could tell about just toys in general and just the wealth of knowledge that he has, and I think it's more entertaining just to hear us just literally shoot the shit about toys for 2 hours than us talk about news and then a story,
right.
and then so we've kind of moved away from that with the podcast, and so far it seems to work. Just from the response from this week's episode was pretty good. So I'm happy with the way the show's going. That was one of those things. I had lost my passion for a while with this after leaving Pop Culture Network and starting this up, and in the middle of all that, I was just kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I was just like, I don't know if I really want to do this anymore. I'm like, I don't even know if I like toys anymore. And it took a lot of soul searching. And finally, I just told Dave, I'm like, look, you're coming over. We're doing this podcast. It's going up this week because if I don't start doing something on a weekly basis to keep my passion alive, then I'm not going to have. There's not going to be anything.
Yeah. We'll get into that later on my end, but as far as ToyCast goes, I've mentioned this in several blog posts. I mentioned it in the last episode of ToyCast that we just released, all about Thundercats, Silverhawks, and Mask, where we talked about those three 80s toy lines. 2012 is probably going to be it for ToyCast for a while. We are going to consistently put out episodes this year, but a buddy of mine, Optimus Scourge, passed away at the end of last year.
Yeah.
And he was one of the ones that helped me come up with the idea of doing what ToyCast originally was. Because originally it was called Transformers ToyCast because we were all just Transformers toy fans at the time. And he passed away. And I just don't feel right going forward with the show past this year because he's not here anymore.
Yeah.
But consistent content will come out for ToyCast in 2012, and we will still do in future years past 2012. We'll still do specials throughout the year, but it's not going to be a weekly thing anymore after this year.
I mean, I feel your pain on that because after I left Pop Culture Network, and we started this up, a lot of people were asking if we were going to do our own version of what that new Toy Smo was, and I just kept telling people there's no way. I'm like, it's not, that show did well when I left because there was enough personality to help that show along. But I'm like, I literally would not do a show like that again, in that vein that we created that new Toy Smell as, without Danny, because it just didn't feel right. It didn't make sense to do that type of show. Now I know, Toy Adventures with the Vol, which I started out with the repair of a talking Mickey toy just for shits and giggles because I wanted to do something. That actually is gonna become kind of our retro toy show. But we're under the banner of, I don't think any of except for our podcasts, none of our stuff is over 10 minutes, and that's just because we feel if we can't give you the meat and what you need to know, with as well as being informative in the shortest amount of time, then there's no need for us to do this. And so far, we've come off pretty strong doing that because I think the majority of our reviews have been short, simple, sweet, to the point, very informative, and show you exactly what you need to see while cutting out all the meat. Now, that's nothing against other reviewers. I mean, guys like Pixel Dan and guys like Sean Long and those guys who are doing the same type of reviews online in the same capacity. Those guys can do 8, 9, 10, 11 minutes on an item, but we were just like, man, we want to move away from these really long reviews and let's just do, because we do 3.5, 4, maybe 5 minutes. I think Toy Adventures with the Ball will be at the most 10 minutes long each episode, which doesn't seem like a long time, but 10 minutes is better than nothing. So, but that's actually going to become kind of our look at vintage toys in a way, because it was the easiest way to go without going, well, here's that new Toy Smell, part 2.
No. No,
You know?
no. With the way now, I know that, and I don't really want to get into this, but just as kind of like a ending to transition off this, I'm actually hoping that they don't do more TNTS episodes like what they were doing. I don't mind them doing what they're doing now with Dirt having the multiple news desks, but the way that final episode ended was just, you can't go back to doing what you were doing after that ending. It's just not possible.
I can tell you just from the conversations Danny and I had when we filmed that was that new toy smell is gone. It is retired. Yeah. It's a dead show. It's not going to be brought back. They kept the TNTS news desk just for the news desk because that's what it was. But
that's a segment of the show that is the news part of the show, and that's what's great about But doing a show like that, and I commend you, and I commend Dan and Dirt and Killen and whoever else, Scotty and Sween and everybody that was on that show for the 4 years, 3? I don't know how long you guys were doing it. Long time.
Almost 4 years.
Yeah, 4 years of that style of internet show where, it was like a 30-minute, 45-minute video show.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work. I always talk about the multiple work I put in all the pod. One 35-minute show with that production quality, that's a lot of work, and that takes up a lot of time. So
yeah, and I've said this in the past, even after I had left Pop Culture Network, but that show owes everything to Dan. I mean, literally. I mean, it was fun standing next to him, but he was literally the driving force behind that because he did the Bears share of the work, and I looking back, if I could change things about all of that, I would have, but. He really was the driving force behind that show, and I agree with their, when it finally came time for him to wrap it up, he was like, when we talked finally about it, he was like, he's like, it's not so much that I want to end it. He's like, it's just getting too damn expensive to do these shows. He's like, because we constantly have to, they pretty much went through their collections. I mean, literally everything that you saw in that new toy smell was from someone's collection, and at some point you're like, okay, we got to stop because now we're buying, ridiculously priced toy lines, and we just can't do it. So it was a good time for the show to go out. I think it went out on a high note, and the ending made a lot of people happy. I know who had been fans but had been kind of unhappy for a while, but it was a good experience. But yeah, that's kind of where we're going with Toy World Order, and. Awesome. You never know. There may be some team ups in the future with other guys, but for right now, we're just kind of in house and doing things our way and having a good time. So
in this special episode, originally we were going to talk about multiple toy companies and why we dislike them or why we hate them, but I think we're just going to cut it down to one company, the company that has been fucking up since 2008 constantly.
Well, I'm gonna play the voice of reason for the most part in this.
You're gonna be an apologist, okay?
No. I'm not gonna be an apologist. I'm not gonna be an apologist because I want to make this clear to everyone listening. I have not bought a toy from this company in almost 2 years.
Right.
You on the other hand have started actively buying toys from them and felt the brunt of the butt sex, basically.
Yeah, so we're going to get into that after this break here in the show. And what you're going to hear next is something from a buddy of mine, Ender from tformers.com. He at the time on his podcast, Radio Free Cybertron, that Brian Kilby hosts and has been running for the past 12 years or however long they've been on air. They were like one of the first ever radio shows on the internet back in 1999. Ender was one of their cast members and still is. He basically, during one of their shows, went on a rant about this company, and this rant is so hilarious, and it still rings true to this day. This rant is like 2.5, 3 years old, but it's still, everything he points out is still correct. So we'll be back after Ender's rant.
Thank God Hasbro isn't Mattel. Ender, the floor is yours.
Oh, Mattel's Masters of the Universe has gotten to be like the most malignant, moronic, mishandled line in history. Not since a Hasbro creative meeting when one executive blurted out, Let's kill the red truck guy. Has a franchise been handled worse? The Masters of the Universe Classics are an amazing line. They use modern toy-making techniques to bring out the best of a vintage figure, retaining its charm and essence while consistently exceeding modern quality standards and delivering fan-driven fun for the adult collector at a price that, while higher than average, is altogether reasonable. Sadly, the He-Man Genius Falcon reaches its apex at this conceptual stage, and then careens out of the sky with the aerodynamic grace of a quadriplegic hippo with an inner ear infection, plummets through a sky of inept customer service, plows straight and through a swamp of incompetent planning, and rests broken and ruptured in a bedrock of useless management. MattyScalper.com's inability to even handle its monthly server load, much less the demand for its product, has settled into a comfortable pattern of letting itself be milked by scalpers at a rate of 10 figures an order, while the real customers wait in error screens. Meanwhile, scalpers, who are, by the way, the most worthless scum on earth, have already posted their overpriced rip-off auctions on the well-oiled servers of eBay, touting the items' rarity due to a false scarcity they themselves have created with the foolish help of Mattel. Nothing endears fans to a brand like having legal tender slapped out of their hands as they attempt to exchange it for your product. The Band-Aid of a club was offered, seemingly a reasonable fix. You commit to buying the figures, and they guarantee you one. Simple enough. Until the line branches out into non-club figures, and the cycle begins again, as Battle Cat is snapped up by the scalping horde, and He-Man fans get shackled with Wondar, a not remake of a never-was exclusive. Now, underestimating demand for a fan line or miscalibrating your limits is not an unreasonable error. They have to make a profit and have to hedge their bets. However, one might think that after 1.5 to 2 years might be enough time to calibrate well enough that your servers don't crash every full moon and your product lasts more than half a hour. Mattel, get your together. Fire everyone on this project who is not a designer and sell us our toys. We give you money, you give us stuff.
Women and children and the faint of heart may wish to leave now.
So we are back here on ToyCast, and that was Ender from Radio Free Cybertron from 1.5, 2 years ago, and everything he just said, sadly, still rings true to this day. 4 years, and they still cannot do a damn thing right with Masters of the Universe Classics.
Should we even continue on? I think Ender covered it pretty well, actually. I don't think
we need to continue on because all as the show would be a 20-minute intro, a 20-minute introduction where you and I are talking about your former and current projects. We need to continue on.
Let's talk about the beginning. Let's talk about real quick about how 2008 San Diego Comic-Con, Mattel announced, early on and before that convention started that, they were Masters Universe Classics was going to debut and King Grayskull was going to be exclusive and everyone was happy. And, San Diego that year wasn't too terrible. You were able to get in the Mattel line pretty decently in a manner and, get your Grayskulls and, it was a good time. And then they announced, He-Man and Beastman are the first two figures. And then, lo and behold, they were supposed to come out in October, if I remember correctly. They were scheduled to start, both of them were supposed to come out in October. And then they got pushed back to December. That was the start of all the issues. Because those two figures got pushed back, and then, the first year wasn't too terrible. We didn't have any major server problems. It was really the second year you start getting into this line and getting into the meat of this line. That is when the problem started. Because when you look back, you look at something, Mattel's distribution for Matty Collector goes through DigitalRiver.com, which DigitalRiver.com actually started out, and I did this research years and years ago. Digital River actually started out as a company where you could purchase basically downloadable games and game licenses. So if you wanted the latest Leisure Suit Larry game, you could go to DigitalRiver.com click on it, pay $10, you'd get a download code in your email, you'd download it, you'd have the game.
Right.
I am guaranteeing, and I don't know this for fact. I don't think anyone knows for this for fact, because I don't think Mattel's lawyers will ever allow this to be public knowledge. I am pretty damn sure on the nose that the upper management of Mattel, when the team behind what was Masters Universe Classics, because that was the only line on Matty Collector at that time, the team behind them were like, we want to sell this line. And management said, oh, it's Masters Universe. We already tried that. Nobody wanted it. And it's like, no, you don't understand. You fucked it up in 2002 and nobody wanted it. We want to do it the right way. And management said, well, maybe if we do something online. You know, I guarantee you they took the lowest bid they could find, because Mattel knows nothing about this kind of distribution. Nothing. They don't know what's involved. They don't know how to do it, or else you would have Mattel.com. Matty would be a subdirectory.
Subsite, yeah.
They have no idea. So they put bids out there, took the lowest bid, and lo and behold, the lowest bid is Digital River. Now, people always blame Matty Collector's servers. Well, it's not Mattel, it's not Matty. It's actually Digital River. And that's the thing, you know, Inder's points were all well-deserved, but that's one of the things a lot of people get wrong, is that they blame Mattel for the server issues. It's not Mattel. Mattel is paying Digital River, or rather Digital River, you know, vice versa, however it goes. Digital River has the contract from Mattel. Right. Mattel's paying them a nominal fee to run this site. I guarantee you, for the most part, Mattel's hands are clean when it comes to running that site, because... Right,
Mattel's hands are clean, but Matty Collector is not. Matty Collector, well, it might be run by Digital River, but their individual website, even their phone customer service line says, thank you for calling Matty Collector. It doesn't say thank you for calling Digital River.
Right, but what I'm saying, though, is Digital River runs all that for them. That is all out of Digital River's headquarters.
Oh, okay, I got you.
None of that comes out of Mattel. Mattel has, literally has nothing to do hands-on with Digital River and Matty Collector for the most part. And I can guarantee you this, because the server loads and everything else are all run by Digital River. And I bet Digital River, even though they said they upgraded their servers, I bet you they still have the same amount of servers and the same amount of speed that they had when they were selling online games downloadable.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, when you have... no one knows the numbers. No one has any idea how many people visit that site a month, you know, on sale date. Nobody has any idea what the numbers are like for these figures. I'm going to say, when you have 1.8 million people all at once trying to, you know, eBay has that probably on a daily basis at any time, and they probably have 1-2 million people on their site at once looking at different things. Well, eBay's got enough servers. They've been doing this for a long time. They've got their shit down straight. Digital River either, one, doesn't care, or two, is too scared to increase, I don't know how I want to say this, because I don't know how their contract works. I want to say they're too frightened to increase their bid offer to Mattel, in thought that Mattel would then take that bid offer from them and give it to someone else. Because right now, Digital River's probably making a shit ton more money than they've ever made in their existence. And Mattel is their cash cow, and they're scared, but they don't have the money or the resources to do anything about all of these server problems and these issues. Now, understand, all this is speculation. I don't know any of this for fact. Right. This is all speculation and all things that I have seen, that I know how other sites like this work. I've seen the inner workings. I kind of get a feel for it.
Right.
But then, with all these server problems in the second year is when shit really started going downhill, because once their shit started to stink, it all started to roll, uphill to Mattel. And it became, we got, delayed figures and screwed up production. And, we got toys coming to us with wrong shoulders, which started with He-Man, of all things. He-Man had the wrong shoulders. His shoulders were on the wrong sides.
Right.
That started the second figure out of the gate had damn shoulders were wrong. It just goes back, their quality control has never been good. Although Mattel's main line, their mainstay lines that are in the retail, their quality control is great. I've never seen a quality issue with any of Mattel's lines that are in stores. Right. You see them every once in a while, but nothing like we've seen with Mattel. Nothing like, full runs of figures like He-Man and King Hiss having completely wrong shoulder orbit, the sockets. I mean, just completely, they're on the wrong sides. Roboto was another one. Swiftwind had the wrong legs. You just start, looking at all this, and it may sound like nitpicking, but you start looking at all the issues Mattel's had and all the problems they've had and all the quality control issues they had, and you just look at it and go, how is this online company still able to survive? Because, and I'll tell you why. It's because, for the most part, and I've said this a million times, and I'm sure I've got plenty of enemies and plenty of people who hate me, Masters fans are the most shit-taking group of fans I have ever seen, that will take so much shit and then literally close their mouth around the cock that feeds them.
Yeah, it's one of those things where... Wow, how do I follow that up? It's one of those things where, Mattel is like, oh, sorry, we're having all these problems. Here's this, here's this, here's this. And of course, all of the Masters fans, at least the ones that are buying the MOTUC figures, I think everyone is a Matty apologist. Because as soon as they get a really, really nice figure in their grubby little hands to either play with or put on display or do a review of, they're like, oh, wow, this is great. This is awesome. This is great. And then it's a vicious cycle. You have that, and then the next month, oh, hell, something's wrong with the sale, or we're not going to be able to make sale date, or this, that, and anything else. I was stoked. 2009, I think, is 2009, 2010 is, I think, when I started getting figures off of, well, at the time, because, and this is something we'll talk about a little bit later, because they're starting to do this now. I understand it's a club. I understand you have to sign up for the club every year, and you're committed to buying those 20 figures for that year. However, for those of us at the time who didn't want to be locked into $400, $500 yearly things of toy buying, and just wanted to cherry pick the toys that we wanted to get, it's like, you have to be here on this date, and you have to make sure you don't have a white screen of death, or else fuck you, we're not selling you these figures. Because as soon as they're sold out, that's it. That's all she wrote. As soon as it's done. So then you have to go to eBay or Amazon or BigBadToyStore.com or places like that to get them. But then you're getting them at those stores' markups, and that's like, wow, really? Holy shit! I started buying the figures myself from Big Bad Toy Store when I could. Right. It wasn't like I was buying 2 or 3 Masters of the Universe Classics regular figures, not like Beasts or large scale figures, just a regular 6.5 set like He-Man, Skeletor. Big Bad Toy Store's prices for those figures are $34.99,
right?
Unless they're on sale. Sometimes they're like $31.49 or $27.99 or whatever else. But for the majority, every regular standard MOTUC figure on BigBadToyStore.com is $34.99 plus shipping. In total, it comes to like, I don't know, $43, $44.
Yeah, something like that.
For one figure. So I would buy here and there, every month if I had an additional $44 laying around that I'd already paid everything else off. I'd be like, okay, cool. I really want this figure. That's great. That's great. That's great. In 2011. Some financial stuff hit me where I had to, at the time, I had everything that had come out to the point of, I think, July. I didn't have everything from like 2010 and 2009 and 2008, but I had everything as far as 2011 went, because I went and got it. So, but in the middle to late 2011, I was running into financial problems, and I had to then sell that entire. I had probably maybe, I think it was 15 figures plus Battle Cat and Panther.
Yeah.
So I had to sell it off. That's just what I had to do because I had other obligations that I needed to meet before, having toys just sitting on my desk or on my shelf or whatever. And then my buddy Optibotimus, who was locked into the 2011 sub and wasn't collecting the toys anymore, I was like, okay, well, I'll buy the rest of them off of you, and that was fine. So I got Leech, Manny Faces, Battleground Evelyn, Hurricane Hordak, and then he also got me a Keldor and another Skeletor off of Mad Maddie Monday or Cyber Monday or whatever. Yeah, it was Cyber Monday.
Right.
So I had all those, and in July 30th, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be stupid. I'm not going to listen to everybody who says, death to the clubs because they're going to end up screwing you in the end. I didn't listen, and my idea was that I would get 2 subscriptions. One to open and to display, and then one to keep mint in seal box or mint on seal card or whatever the hell, and then get some of those Zolo World cases where you could put them in a clamshell case and have them hanging on the wall so it doesn't affect the actual hanger that's on the actual Matty Collector or the Masters of the Universe Classics boxes. So that was my plan. Well, the apartment that I'm in is only a 1-bedroom apartment. Yes, it has plenty of wall space where I could do this, but I didn't have the extra fundage to go to Zolo World to order those MOTUC clamshell cases.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to sell the second subscription because I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to keep one subscription to open the figures.
Right, makes sense.
And then November and December 2011 hit. Originally, Battleground Evelyn, which is essentially a repaint of the original Evelyn that they did for MOTUC,
right,
is a 2000X repaint. So we could have her in 2000X colors. She has her 2000X head and her vintage head, but it's in the purple and black and all that style. It doesn't have the actual 2000X design of the skirt, but it has those colors. It has a purple cape. It has a purple staff and a glow in the dark staff piece. And originally she was supposed to be in November with Swiftwind and Snoutspout. They then moved her to December. Okay. Great. All right. So I'm like, all right, well, I can pay my buddy Optibotimus off in December for every figure, because I was paying him in payment plans. So I could pay it off, and that way when BG Evelyn came out, I could have it all for Christmas.
Right.
I could have a Masters of the Universe Classics Christmas. Come December, 3 days before the sale, December 12th, 2011, we're sorry, subscribers. We're having distribution problems with Demo Man. Hence, the subscribers that are supposed to be getting Battleground Evelyn are also going to get that figure delayed. Are you fucking kidding me?
Here's the biggest issue with that is that why they only announced that a handful of days before it was supposed to go on sale when they probably knew a month and a half ago that it wasn't going to be here in any way, shape, or form. That is what boggles my mind the most. And as somebody who, as I said at the start of this, somebody who hasn't actively bought a Mattel figure from Matty in probably close to 2 years, I cannot wrap my head around the fact that they had to have known that these toys just were not going to get here. They right. had to have known there was no way, because you just don't it's not like UPS. They are just not like, well, UPS is running late. Sorry guys, We're talking about, pallets and pallets and pallets of these toys.
Yeah.
Not coming, not getting here to the States where they need to get to. And they know about these things well in advance. It's not something that just kind of springs up on them, especially if it did. Maybe 2 weeks before, not 3 days before.
Yeah.
They would have known about that and would have been able to go on 3 weeks before and gone, hey, sorry, just found out these aren't going to make customs. They're not going to get into the States in time. We're going to have to push them. That would have been okay. But 3 days before that, and then that's the only that's the only thing you had to tell people who are waiting, or you've already taken their money.
Yeah.
you know?
And
then
well, the subscribers for December didn't get their money taken because the subscribers didn't get their money taken until the other problem about this is though, as certain pallets of Demo Man came in, they were then charging subscribers and saying, here, you got, this set of 10 subscribers get their figures, but this set of 10 don't because we don't have enough. They didn't wait till the full quota came in to fulfill every single subscription that they had.
Right.
That's the issue. My issue is, whereas I had already paid Optibotimus for the Evil In, I don't give a shit about Demo Man. He's a Masters of the Universe Classics neon green Slimer. That's what he is to me. I understand fans love him because he's a original Mark, whatever the guy's name is, design what Skeletor might have originally looked like in a comic book somewhere. I don't care. I care about show accuracy, and that's pretty much it. I have never, ever liked the original Evil In toy. Even as a kid, I never liked it because she was not yellow in the Filmation cartoon. I'm sorry,
right.
She wasn't. So I've never liked that toy. So the Battleground Evil In, I really like that because it's show accurate, whatever else. And, so I've already paid Optibotimus for this, and I'm not saying anything against that. I've already paid for it, I don't care, whatever, but it's still delayed.
Right.
Well, I'm the type of person where I'm very impulse. If I pay for something and it's supposed to come out on a certain time or it's supposed to get to me on a certain time, I want it now.
Yeah.
I went on Maddie and I ordered a second Battleground Evil In because that was the other biggest thing. Is like, oh, sorry subscribers, this is delayed, but we do have the Battleground Evil In for cherry pickers that want to buy day of sale.
Right. The people that were guaranteed the figures when they signed up for the subscription are the ones that end up getting screwed because the ones that make it to the States, they actually have to turn around and put on Matty Collector to sell, or else it'll be an even bigger mess, which I understand the logistics behind that. They're like, okay, these people are guaranteed their figures. We're getting these figures. They're going to get their figures. They are guaranteed them. These other people who show up month to month and just buy this stuff are going to show up at the site, and we're not going to have anything to sell them, so these the ones that we're getting in, we need to put those up for sale. I understand the logistics behind that. I don't agree with them. I understand they were trying to put out fires and it, but that fire has grown now into a much larger fire.
Oh yes. I'll get into that in a second. So, I had my Evil In. Every time I've gone on Maddie, even on sale dates,
right?
Because I'm trying to remember. I've only bought 2 things off of MaddieCollector.com. Everything else I've bought third party, whether it's through friends or whether it's through other, like Big Bad Toy Stores where I normally go, or Amazon.
Right.
The other thing I bought on Maddie one time was I bought the Great Wars assortment, the second weapons pack that they did. The one that came with the She-Ra sword and all the different, not the She-Ra sword, the Adora sword, the second silver sword. I think it's Great Wars 2 or whatever. That experience of being on the site, it wasn't a sale date, it went fine. Now I knew on the December sale date that, of course, because everybody wants Battleground Evil In, that obviously I was going to get the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 Power Rangers in space, Matty Collector, white screen of death. I finally got in. What really kind of pissed me off, and I almost thought I wasn't going to get the figure, was as I'm going through the checkout, every step of the checkout, like after I entered my information or whatever else and blah, 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 after each of those steps, I got a white screen for like one countdown. And I'm like, really? Seriously? I could see like if you first go to the site and there's so many people and you have to even have the countdown to get into the site. But once you're there and you have something in your cart, and and of course they have a big disclaimer of, well, we can't, even though you put this figure in your cart, we can't guarantee you that you'll actually get it until you actually check out. So they're actually promoting people to snipe the figures from others.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you friggin' serious? So I finally got through the checkout. I got the confirmation. I got the shipping thing and whatever else, and I did get it. So
And well,
I got
and
the
you know,
implant.
and you know the shopping cart thing. I don't even think that. I don't think that's necessarily. That's something I think that isn't necessarily in their control because I don't think anyone has written or created a shopping cart program to that degree that is able to track what is in your shopping cart before
Yeah.
you check out. I mean, I just don't think that it's possible at this time for them to create such a program that tracks what is in people's shopping carts, especially when you have a couple million people at once all trying to buy the same figure. That's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
a
That's a not.
mathematical
Yeah.
equation of hell.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
And
something that's not within their control. But yeah, I mean, I understand that, suddenly you shouldn't, once you're in the site, you shouldn't have to reload every fucking time you go to a different screen. And that was
right.
always my biggest complaint. I remember when around that time when BattleCat first came out, there were people actually discovered back doors into the site that would take you right to the order page. You never got the white screen of death. They literally would go to the order page, order their stuff, and be done. And that's how a lot of these scalpers were able to. That's why BattleCat went so quick, because these scalpers suddenly had this back door, and they were able to go in, multiple people at once and buy these up with no problems. And suddenly no one had BattleCat because it was like, well, what the fuck happened to all the BattleCats? And then suddenly, they start showing up on all these third-party sites and all over eBay and stuff, and it's like, people wanting $100 for him, $125, and it's like, how is this happening? And then suddenly it came to light, oh, there's back doors to the Matty Collector site. Every month, this is the address you go to get in through the back door. Well, they, to Mattel's credit, once that was brought out to light, because you don't know until somebody starts talking about it, really, in that case. Once somebody actually opened their big mouth and people were like, oh, really? Well, Mattel sealed the back door up, and there's been no real issues like that again. But, it goes back to the server issues where there's just not enough serving power to run the site properly. I don't think it's ever going to change. I think it's just going to continuously be, much of the same crap until Matty Collector goes down in a fiery death.
Yeah. Now, I mentioned earlier about July 2011.
Right.
July 30th, 2011, I went on there and I got 2 2012 Club Eternia subscriptions.
Right.
The total with shipping, came to $90.55. Now, I understand what their policies are and everything else. However, I'm the type of person that if I order something from somewhere, I want them to charge me all at once. If I have the extra money right then and there, I want them to charge me all at once. That way I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Right.
Say you go to Walmart and you buy a $100 iTunes card or 25, any denomination of gift card. You're not going to sit there and buy $40 of a $100 gift card. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So on August 1st, 2011, they charged me $40, which is the cost of the initial 2012 January figure. I then had a remaining balance of $50.55. Well, as you said a second ago, from Demo Man on, the problems have increased.
Right.
They came out and basically said that Sorceress isn't going to be able to meet quota. And seeing as how we had such a screw up on Demo Man, we are actually not going to sell her until the full quota does come in. So that way some subscribers are getting her and some aren't. We're not going to go through that again. So I do commend them on doing that. However, what they did was originally January was supposed to be, and I'm not counting the 30th anniversary stuff. I don't care about the 30th anniversary stuff because it's figures I just don't care about. I don't care about Fearless Photog, something that was supposed to win a contest 30 years ago. It's a cool looking figure. It has no meaning for me though. So, I'm thinking, all right, well that's cool. So January was supposed to be originally Sorceress, Fearless Photog, if you count the 30th anniversary, and the Star Sisters.
Correct.
The Star Sisters. Something that was in mock-ups and maybe 5 minutes of a She-Ra episode. 3 characters, and now I did comment on Pixel Dan's video review of these, and he's like, oh, well, they've been talked about on He-Man.org for years now. And I'm like, well, I don't care if they've been talked about on He-Man.org for years now. I've only seen them entirely once. I barely remember them. And they are the most expensive piece in the 2012 subscription. They are $60 for 3 figures that, to my own personal knowledge, no one gives a shit about.
Right.
What happened was they now moved the Sorceress to February, and they put the Star Sisters in January. Originally, they moved the Star Sisters to February to ease people from, Christmas costs and whatever else, and we're just going to have Sorceress and Fearless Photog in January. Because of the Sorceress not being able to meet full quota of them getting them all at once, they're like, well, let's move her to February, we'll put the Star Sisters in January, and basically screw everybody. This, for me personally, had caused a huge fucking issue. Because at the time, and I don't mind saying this, at the time I had $73.19 in my bank account. So, as far as I was concerned, looking at my invoice on MattyCollector.com, or as Ender likes to say, MattyScalper.com, it said $90.55, and as I said a second ago, I already had the $40 taken, so the $50.55 was what I had budgeted out. I've already. It's not like I'm spending more than I get a month, so I've already taken care of all my bills, and I had this extra money left over to take care of this charge.
Right.
Well, now that because of the Count Marzo, who is a PCN board member and a friend of mine on Twitter, actually said something very funny. He said, the SS, and the first thing I thought of was, oh great, the Star Sisters are German Nazi spies, because that's what they are to me, really, honestly. That's just really what they are. They're a German curse. So they put the Star Sisters in January. I have 2 subscriptions to Matty Collector. That's $120 before shipping. After shipping, I think it's like $130.55. Guess what I had to do? All those figures I had just bought from Optibotomist from August to December, including the Battleground Evil End that I had bought myself off of Matty Scalper, I took them all to the pawn shop, had to sell them all to get additional money to cover the charge for the fucking Star Sisters. Oh, but it's not over there. Guess what happens 2 days after I do that?
Tell us, Mike.
I get a fucking email from Matty Collector saying, because of this huge issue and because they cost so much, we're going to split the costs up. You're going to be charged X amount of dollars on the 13th, and then you're going to be charged the rest of it on the 20th. They're basically splitting up the payment to ease the pain. That doesn't ease the fucking pain. I've already sold. The only thing I have left right now is the 1982 Castle Grayskull that I've had since I was 3 years old in 1983. I have no Masters of the Universe Classics figures whatsoever because I had to sell them all just to make sure that my bank account wasn't going to go into the red. And I had talked to Optibotomist about this. He's like, well, can't you just call the bank and have them put a stop payment or have them, not allow the charge? I looked into that. The bank told me because if you give your information, give your credit card information out to a third party, which, all, excuse me, all websites and services are third parties, they then directly can take from your bank.
Right.
And the only way the bank can stop it is to put a stop payment on it. But my bank charges $33 per stop payment.
Jesus.
So, yeah. So, it's either spend... Okay, so...
So basically you were going to get raped either way.
Right, $33...
That's my advice to you would be just go dead in the eyes and just let them have what they want.
Well, right. But the thing is, okay, you take $33 and you multiply that times 12 months because it's 12 months of figures. That's $396 of stop payment fees.
Jesus.
Okay? So there was no way I was doing that. So I'm to the point now where I give a shit. The figures are great. I don't, I'm not saying anything bad about the actual design of the line whatsoever. The figures are awesome. But I'm to the point now where I'm actually done toy collecting. I'm actually probably going to end up I'm probably going to end up taking my Castle Grayskull that I've lugged around with me for the last 25 years. I'm probably going to take that and go sell it somewhere because I don't. Mattel, Matty Collector, Digital River have all basically given me the fuck you attitudes towards toy collecting whatsoever. I'm now, instead of keeping one subscription, I'm selling them both. I'm selling every single figure in both subscriptions this year. I've got several buyers for several different ones at this point. I don't want anything to do with it. So as soon as Matty Scalper takes my money every month, and as soon as they send me figures, I'm getting the money back by reselling. And the way that I'm reselling them is, I am, instead of doing like a high overhead charge or a high, price hike, like a lot of the online things are, I'm charging people what Matty Collector has charged me. So for a single figure Sorceress, they charge for the shipping that I get, because I usually get the UPS ground, 3 to 7 day ground shipping or whatever it is. They charge $28.70. So Sorceress, Fisto, Cobra Khan, whatever, those figures are all $28.70. For the multi-packs and bigger items, I am charging the actual price, but I'm not charging a shipping cost on that. So the Star Sisters is $60 shipped. I'll take care of the shipping cost. I don't care about that because I just want to get rid of those fucking things. The Griffins, which I've already got two people who want to buy those are $30 shipped. So, because the thing of it is I want to be able to, and I'm not putting this shit on eBay. Fuck that. I ain't dealing with that. I'm posting on the Matty boards, not the Matty boards, the Matty Facebook page, and I'm posting on the PCN forum saying, hey, who wants this, who wants this, who wants this?
Right.
And I'm doing it to where I get the most amount of money without, fees from eBay or PayPal or whatever else. And so it's one of those things where I need to recoup the most amount of money as possible. Because I want nothing to fucking do with this line anymore. Nothing. And I'm not getting a 2013 subscription. Fuck this.
What's funny about all that is that you're in the minority when it comes to people who have literally turned their backs on Masters because of the way Mattel is running, or not even, that they're running Matty and the way that Digital River handles business. I mean, I've seen a majority of people go, I'm done. I'm done with the line. I'm going to sell all my shit. And nobody ever does. They just continue to.
Well, see,
they continue to hobble down in front of their lord and master and let them beat them senseless with a nine tails.
But the difference is though, it's not just, oh, sorry, we couldn't mail your subscription figure out, but we could put this online first for people to actually buy cherry pick. The difference is though, because of this quota thing and having to rearrange the schedule, they fucked with my money pretty much.
Right.
Because I had to. No, I've got a picture on Twitter where someone said that I won't. A friend of mine on Twitter said, you won't sell the figures that you're going to be buying. You won't resell them. I said, want to bet? And I took a picture of my desk where all that's there is my Castle Grayskull. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't care. I love the line. I love the toys. But I'm done. I'm not buying anymore. I'm serious. I could put that money every month towards something else more important, than toys. I just don't give a shit anymore. I've seen the reviews of Sorceress and Star Sisters, and Pixel Dan just put up his review of Shadow Weaver on Blip TV. I was ecstatic for Shadow Weaver because it's the first ever Shadow Weaver figure we've ever gotten, I think. And I saw Dan's review of Sorceress, and seeing her up close and the way that her wings work, I don't like her.
Yeah.
I just don't. Like, having her maybe just stand there with her arms out and just looking at her from the front is fine. But if you're like wanting to pose her and, maybe take images where you're showing He-Man facing her and she, you see her back, and it's like those and I understand it's an engineering thing where that's how they had to do it so the wings would work. But she has two giant protruding things coming out of the back of her shoulders because that's how the wings plug into it or whatever else. I don't like the way the figure looks. I just don't. I don't give a shit anymore.
It's sad that Mattel has started to turn off their own fans because of this stuff. I mean, you talked about how you literally had to pawn the figures that you had to cover the cost of the Star Sisters. They knew when they made that announcement that they had screwed things up, and even though they had already said we're moving the Star Sisters back to help with after Christmas, and then suddenly they're like, well, we lied. We're going to do the Star Sisters anyway because we screwed things up really bad. But then on top of that, the very next day they sent out an email saying, oh, by the way, we're going to break those payments up. You guys should have known that day you sent out that email. That should have been part of that whole plan, not look at this fire that started. Now we have to put out this fire and turn around and try to save face on all this. Well, it's too late because people like you and people are going to use the argument, oh, you should have put your money aside and all this other shit.
No. And that's what I'm saying right now. No. It isn't even about putting my money aside. They had already taken, back in August, when I had the money available, because, I budgeted out for it. They had already taken the initial the cost of the 2 subscription initial figures for $40. I was under the impression that this month, in January, that Sorceress was coming out. This is before all the announcements of, oh, sorry, Sorceress isn't, we're not going to get it in time. But it was before that.
Right.
I was still under the impression that the $50.55, that's what I budgeted out for the January cost. So no one should be commenting on this episode post saying, oh, well, you should have budgeted your money out better. No. This is not my fault. This is, as I said before, this isn't me overspending something and then not having the money. This isn't me buying something else. This isn't me going to, Target and buying 20 DVDs and not having the money to cover this charge. This is me having the money to cover a certain amount of the charge that was originally told that I would have. And now that because they have to move all this shit around, they put the most expensive figures in its place. We've seen in-package pictures of Fisto, and I don't know how long as far, I don't know anything about Mattel's workings, but I don't know how long it usually takes them to get quotas in, but they could have put Fisto in that place. They could have put Cobra Khan in that place. They could have put any single figure in January.
Yeah.
They could have put any single figure in January. And I would have been all right. I would have been fine because it would still be the same amount.
I mean, that was the point I was headed towards. Is that there are going to be people that are like, well, you should have put your money aside. You should have budgeted. Well, it's not about budgeting, and it's just like you said, it's not about budgeting. It's the fact that Mattel royally screwed people who had already budgeted the money, and now suddenly are like, I don't have this extra money. I've got money budgeted for this, and that's it. And now you're telling me I have to have more money budgeted for that. That's not how commerce works. That's not how, maybe that's how it works in North Korea. With the death of dear leader, I can imagine things are a little crazy over there too. But Mattel's just like, well, let's see. Here's a table. Here's a guy. Let's bend him over the table, pull his pants down, and then see what happens. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs. And I tweeted, when they tweeted that. They sent out a tweet saying that, hey, the Star Sisters are going to be January now. Sorcerers is pushed back. I literally tweeted, look, the Titanic. I mean,
I know.
That is where, that in my mind is where they're heading, because there cannot be, they're starting to get into territory now that they got the Filmation license, and now that they're doing these figures based on concept art, which some of them are okay. I'll take that. I get they're trying to branch out, that's understandable, but there's still key characters that have never been made. Mechanic, Ram Man, you've got a bunch of key characters that have never hit the shelves, and now they're just from outward appearances, they appear to be a sinking ship, and not just because of Masters, but they've fucked up Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters is completely screwed and on its way out. They've got the license for Back to the Future. They're going to jack that up because they're going to do so many versions of Marty and Doc, because I mean, yeah, you can do versions of Marty, Doc, and Biff, but who else are you going to do? Are you going to do Lorraine? Are you going to do, they're not going to do a DeLorean. They're going to jack that line up because people are going to buy the first Marty and Doc, and then no one's going to give a shit because it's going to be like, Marty and Doc are cool. That's all we want. We don't care about, people will probably buy Back to the Future 2 Marty to get the hoverboard, I imagine, but that's it. They've screwed up the 12-inch Movie Masters line because they did these 3 Superman figures, which were great, but, they're just odd 12-inch figures.
They're dolls.
They've screwed up their Movie Masters line. They're screwing up DC Universe because with DC relaunching, I don't even want to get into that. With DC relaunching their universes, Mattel was like, well, we got to make new figures, so we're going to cancel DC Universe Classics in the stores and do this new DC Universe All-Stars figures that have, these revamped, relaunched versions of the figures. So everyone's going to have to buy new figures of figures you've already bought. And we're going to take DC Universe online to Matty Collector, and then we're going to show off the worst fucking figures that we can show off to make you not want to buy this line. And then suddenly we're begging you to subscribe to this line because the subscription figure is a figure we've never made in DC Universe, which is Poison Ivy, which pissed a lot of people off who didn't buy the subscription because they didn't announce that figure until after the subscriptions were closed. That figure was announced after they were like, well, we closed it off. Here's the subscription figure for DC Universe. And that just set people off. They're like, if I'd have known that, I'd have bought them, but you didn't tell us that. You didn't tell us who was the subscription figure. You didn't tell us you didn't show us any pictures of who was going to be in that line. You literally said at San Diego, these are the figures that are going to be that are going to be a part of the DC Universe Classics subscription, the DC Infinite Universe or whatever it's called, and that was it. They didn't get pictures or anything, and it's like, how far in advance did you plan this? Going back to Ghostbusters at Comic-Con when they announced what the subscription figure was going to be for, it was going to be the rookie from the Ghostbusters game. Look, I like the Ghostbusters game. That's great. But you couldn't, you couldn't do Azul. Yeah, that couldn't be your subscription figure. You couldn't do one of the ghosts from the real Ghostbusters in the movie style. You couldn't do Sam Hain or the Sandman or, any of those figures in the style of the movie. Really, you pick the rookie, a figure that, just judging from, and I felt bad for the gal who is Toy Guru's right hand, I guess. She does a lot of the conventions with him. I don't even know her name. But I know she presented that, and everybody just booed. And my heart went out to this gal because she didn't. Yeah. She had no idea what to do because she thought, oh, it's going to be great. The fans are going to love this. She hyped it up, and then she said it, and people went. Basically, they were like, suddenly they're in New York with guys going, "Fuck you," I'm walking here. It was one of those things where your heart just goes out to this poor gal because you're like, well, welcome to, you can do everything you can to please your fans, and the moment you start screwing things up, your fans are going to turn your backs on you. And that's literally what they did at that moment, is when the Matty Collector ship started to sail slowly down that horizon. And, since then, you've just seen this build-up. Now, whether or not, and everything I say is speculation. It's my opinion. I'm an opinionated guy. That's just from being on the outside looking in. This is what I see. I see this great beast that should have been being just eaten alive by parasites. And I'm not talking parasites as a fan. I'm talking about parasites from within. I mean, they're literally being dismantled piece by piece. And one of the saddest things is that people always blame Toy Guru for everything, and they always immediately turn on Scott. And it's one of the things people don't understand is that Scott is doing his job. I mean, that's literally his upper management telling him this is what you need to tell. And since he basically made himself the face of Mattel and Matty Collector, people think he is the end all be all. And they just vehemently attack this poor man. And it's like, Dave and I have talked about it on Dave and Duvall's, and the fact that, we have nothing against Scott. We have nothing against Mattel. But the fact is that you're obviously not running Matty Collector like you run Barbie. I mean, look at the way that Mattel runs Barbie. Barbie is their cash cow. And they run that like, it's their golden child. That is what makes them the most money is Barbie. And they run that with an iron grip. I mean, there is stuff that comes out in Barbie, and stuff sells because Barbie fans are so, crazy, and they don't screw up, There are certain stores that get certain high dollar exclusives, and they make so many of them, and they tell people ahead of time, and those people know where to go. And I mean, they run it just like a well-oiled machine. Why can't they not run Matty Collector the same way they run their Barbie division? That is the biggest thing that I literally just have so much trouble wrapping my head around, is if that you're in this business to make money. You're in the toy business to make money. It's hard to make money in the toy business because toy aisles are not like they used to be in the 80s. The toy business is not like it used to be in the 80s, where you used to have, you'd walk into a Toys R Us and you'd have, 30, 36, 40-foot long toy aisles for boys' action figures, for girls' toys, where it was just aisle after aisle of toys, packed, boxed, everything. You don't have, now you fight for, each company fights for so much real estate on the shelves. I mean, go into a Target, go into a Walmart. They don't carry shit anymore because their toy departments are so small, 9 months out of the year, and then Christmas time they overexpand and suddenly they carry all the stuff they didn't carry. But 9 months out of the year, starting at Toy Fair, when they do their best to, lock down buyers for their lines, everyone's fighting for the same amount of real estate or less. I mean, look how much real estate Bandai gets for Thundercats, which Thundercats should be a really well-received line, and it has been, but you can't find anything half the time because no one's carrying it because it's just so small. Look what happened to G.I. Joe from Hasbro. I mean, it was a big line, and then suddenly Walmart's had a peg of G.I. Joe figures, and that was it. And it's like, where the hell all the Joe stuff goes? If there isn't a movie or an active television series to push that, or something well-known like Star Wars or Power Rangers or Ben 10, you literally are not going to get on that shelf. Or, if people that, I guarantee you, I don't know who made Redekai, the card action figure game, and I can't think of who did that.
I have no idea.
That I guarantee you that company threw so much money at these stores in order to get as much real estate as they have, because that damn game has as much real estate as games like Beyblade and that at Toys R Us. Yeah. Well, not Beyblade, but Bakugan. Bakugan.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly why, when you're talking about toy real estate, I think that's not only is it just because of the 2000X failure, that's exactly why Mattel has gone to do the online line, to do the subscription, to sell them through Matty Scalper.
And that's a smart way to go, because that's right, where your consumer is at. I mean, that's where all of these collectors are. I mean, look at companies like Sideshow. Sideshow in particular. Sideshow is, they have a retail presence in, if you go to Toys R Us in Times Square, they have Sideshow stuff there. If you, most comic book shops and mom and pop toy shops, and there are, certified Sideshow dealerships.
Right.
But Sideshow's mainstay is online. They are an online business. Their toys are low numbered, high dollar, and sell out every time they offer them. And that makes you look at a model like that and go, well, why the hell can't Mattel take something like that and do the exact same thing and not have these issues? Because Sideshow, the thing is that if Mattel would just offer pre-orders on their toys, and once they sell out of the pre-orders that aren't subscription figures, that's it. You wouldn't have to go to Matty every month. You literally could just go pre-order your figure. The pre-orders would be open from this time to this time, and once they're gone, they're gone. And then you would never have to go to Matty on a sale day to fight these crowds to buy these toys. That is what Sideshow does. Every release, they offer up their pre-sale to their collectors club, and then they offer it online where you can pre-order. And they offer things like FlexPay, where you can pay, if you pre-order a Hot Toys figure and it's $300, you pay $75, and then you don't pay another $75 for 4 months, and then you don't pay the last of it or whatever for 3 months, or 2 months before the toy comes out, or right before it ships. And if Mattel would take that type of business model and embrace that type of business model, I honestly and truly believe we wouldn't have these issues. We wouldn't have issues where people like yourself have been so burned in such a short amount of time by Mattel that they're literally ready to give up all of toy collecting because of this one incident in one line. We wouldn't have that issue if Mattel would just listen to what people are trying to tell them and not go, it's just crazy Masters fans. They're going to buy our shit no matter what we do. We don't care. If they would just stop and listen to the rest of us and to the majority of Masters fans and go, I think these people have it right on the nose if we offered pre-orders. And that's what they think the subscription club is. But the subscription club is so jacked up now that, now you're locked in for every figure, and a lot of people don't want every figure. If they would just do pre-orders, get rid of the damn subscription figures, get rid of the subscriptions, get rid of it. It's a failed process. People hate it. They'll say they love it, but people are literally spewing flames right now because of the whole Star Sisters thing right now.
Yeah.
Get my idea, my perfect world would be get rid of subscriptions, do away with them. The only thing people care about is subscription figures, and we've had two shitty subscription figures and a good one with Shadow Weaver because, we never got a Shadow Weaver figure, and she was a mainstay character in in She-Ra, and that's a good thing to use a subscription figure for. Make the subscription figures, have people, pay $25 a year, $30 a year, or something like the G.I. Joe Club does, where they pay a membership fee up front every year, and then they get first dibs at product. They get if they're enrolled within a certain time of the year, they get the exclusive figure. Basically, enrollment pays for the exclusive figure. So right. you'd have a Masters Universe club, kind of like the subscription, basically the same idea as the subscriptions, but without all the hassle and all the mess. You basically have Masters fans pay you $55 a year for this membership, and then you get the subscription figure, which you get that figure, you get first access to pre-order your figures. So you get they could throw in a bunch of extras that preferred seating at Comic-Con for the panels, or front of the line passes for Comic-Con. I mean, there's so much that they could do that is so logistically
possible.
So logistically possible that why they're not doing stuff like that and still going with this piss poor business model of here are the subscription figures, you're locked in for all these figures, you cannot cancel, we won't let you cancel. If you cancel, you're basically in Maddie prison and you can never come out.
I actually called them the other day.
Right.
And this was before I got the email about the split payments, because by then I didn't care. I already have the money in my account to cover it.
Right.
So, but I had called them the other day saying, "Hey, look, I no longer want this because of the fuck up that I didn't say this to the person I was talking to, but I no longer want this because of the fuck up that has happened with moving these figures around. I don't have the money to cover it."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, blah, 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 blah." I was like, okay, well, can you either cancel it or can you get me to someone who can cancel it? And I know it says on their website that they don't allow cancellations. I'm sorry. If I've already paid you the $40 part of, the initial shit, and you haven't even sent me anything yet because it doesn't start until January, and in January, I don't know, what is it? When did all this come out? Earlier this past week.
Correct.
Let's say 7 days before the sale. All this news about switching around happened 7 days before the sale, and I don't want my stuff anymore. You're telling me I can't cancel, and I'm basically locked in for $510 of money for an entire year. In my case, $1,020 because I have 2 subscriptions.
Right.
For the entire year. You're telling me I can't cancel that? I don't care if that's what it says in your terms of service or whatever else. That's bad business practice. And I had my finger on the pulse to call the Better Business Bureau on MattyCollector.com, because that is fucking wrong. If you're going to sit there and screw it, and I know Toy Guru is just the messenger, but he's like, well, the message now is that he's been given to give everyone is, it doesn't matter what, you're going to get all the figures, but it doesn't, we decide what month they're going to be.
Yeah.
We can announce it and say it's going to be this month, this month, this month, but if shit happens, well, then whatever. You know what? While you were talking, I was thinking what they should have done is they should have pushed Shadow Weaver up to Shadow Weaver at this point is coming out in February. They should have just pushed her to January, not had a subscription figure, just release her in January. That be the only figure. I wouldn't have had to sell all my toys that I had.
Right.
And then you could have Sorceress and Fisto and I mean, granted, that's going to make February a huge month, but I don't know. And the other thing that I brought up to several other people, and I actually commented on, as I said, I commented on Pixel Dan's video about his Star Sisters review. I said, I said the whole thing about no one cares, blah, blah. He replied, and then I said, well, you know what? They should have put this 3-pack out later in the year, and they could have given us another multi-pack in this month or whatever else. Or, let's see, not do these figures this year, save them for later down in the line when no one is going to care at that time, and do something like a 3-pack of Horde Troopers or a 3-pack of Twiggets from Secret of the Sword, those little midget Twigget people from the movie. They could have put anyone in that big 3-pack. They didn't have to put the Star Sisters in there. Right. And from watching Dan's review, I hope to God, and I'm sorry this happened to Dan, but Dan's figures have a ton of problems with them. Like his Tall Star, the joint, there's something wrong with the joints, and you can't. I believe his Tall Star's like right leg, just as soon as you touch it, it just falls off.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm sorry that happened to Dan. I'm hoping that's not the case on everyone's figures because, as I said, I'm not opening these damn things. I'm leaving them in the white mailer, and whoever wants to buy them can buy them. But I'm not one of these people at this point where I'm saying yes, I'm going to sell it all, but then I'm going to buy it all back. No. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done with Maddie. I still love Masters of the Universe. I still love Masters of the Universe Classics for what the toys are, but I'm done dealing with it, and I'd rather put my money in other things, than toys right now. It's just soured me so much that as I said before, ToyCast will still have, episodes that we'll do, but, it'll probably be me hosting, and I'll probably have 2 other people talking about toys that they want to talk about or something like that, whereas it just, oh God.
Well, what's funny is that, Voltron starts in February.
Yeah.
And the good thing is that it's literally 5 figures, 5 lines, 5 figures. They're packaged together, one price, and that's it. I mean, that's they might do other stuff beyond that, but that's the core that they're doing, and they look great. I've seen the first. I don't know if they're in-hand reviews, but I've seen a lot of the open box pictures and stuff of the figures, and they look like they're really well done, and Voltron deserves a decent, to have a 3-foot Voltron is pretty damn cool. But I wanted the subscription, and I never bought it, never paid for it. I didn't have the extra money. Then they extended it, and then some other things came up, and I had some other things that I wanted to get into, and I was like, I just don't have the extra $70-some bucks to give them for them to give me back, 60 of it and keep 15 or whatever for the subscription right now. I'm like, I just don't have it. I'm like, I'm just going to let it go. So I've had to go to other routes and basically talk to some friends who run a retail, online retailer.
Right.
That's like, hey, did you guys buy Voltron subscriptions? Would you sell me one of the subscriptions? And they're like, yeah, we'll work something out with you. So, I'm going to get a Voltron subscription, but it's like, I'm not going to Maddie to get it. I refuse to go to Mattel, to Maddie.com to try to buy these as they come out. I would rather find alternate routes that aren't eBay and help somebody else out who's already buying them to get them than deal with Maddie. Because like I said, I literally have not dealt with Maddie. What was the last figure that I actually physically went to Maddie and bought? Probably my extra Orko and Prince Adam, that Comic-Con. That's probably the last figure 2 years ago that I went to Maddie Collector on sale day to buy. The last figure that I bought was Whiplash, and I bought that off Pixel Dan because it was an extra figure. That's literally the last Masters figure I bought. And I didn't even buy all of them to begin with. I didn't buy Count Marzo, and I didn't buy I can't even think of some of the other ones that came out during that
Faker
period.
and Web Store.
No, I bought all those, but a lot of like the second tier, third tier, the 2000X figures, I didn't buy a lot of them because I'm just like, I really don't want them.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've had to go to other routes to get Voltron because I really like those figures. I love Voltron. I think it's, if they only do the 5 lions, that's great. If the
well, the
lions,
5 lions and the pilots. I mean, the pilots are coming with the lions,
right.
So I mean, it's not like it's actually 10 figures if you think about it. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Right. And I mean, I have these great hopes that they'll do. It'd be great for them to do a vehicle force in the same scale, but I know that'll never happen.
Oh shit!
Well, yeah, I mean that'd be spectacular. That'd be a
Vehicle force sucks.
Well, a lot of people think Vehicle Force sucks. It's one of the coolest vintage toys I own, though, is that Vehicle Force. It never got the Actually, the one Voltron that really sucks is the Gladiator Voltron, which was the red, the black, and the blue robots that literally sat on top of one another and formed a big 6-armed robot. That one, I've got 2 of those robots. I still need to find a blue one, but that one's a pretty cheesy Voltron figure. But I guess in closing for me, because like I said, people are going to listen to this podcast, and whether I've made new enemies or whether people agree with me or disagree with me, I don't care. We live in America. We have freedom of speech. It's like I said, I'm a very opinionated guy. If you listen to David Duvall, I'm very opinionated. And I'm not actively purchasing anything from Matty Collector, so I don't feel as venomous towards them as a lot of people do right now. But I still look at things that they've done, having bought figures from them in the first couple of years and seeing the way things have gone down since then. And, I feel like I have a decent opinion on the matter. Matty will never change.
You're more objective than I am because, as you said, you're not actively into it. Now, this was obviously going to be my first year into it, and this is a hell of a way to start. And I want to stop,
right?
And I'm going to stop. It's just one of those things where I don't know. You mentioned earlier about Ram Man and Mechaneck and everything else. What I've come to realize, even before all this debacle, if the Sorceress had actually happened in January, if shit happened the way they said it was supposed to, I would have been fine.
Yeah.
And I would have loved the line, and I still do love the line of toys, but I would have loved dealing with it and not having to worry about it. But you mentioned earlier about Ram Man and Mechaneck. The thing about them is, though, they have to carry a year. Sorceress, Shadow Weaver, Fisto, Stinkor. I mean, everybody was ecstatic to see Stinkor.
Right.
Those are figures so far up to this point that they've revealed that are going to carry the 2012 line.
Right.
When they get to 2013, maybe Ram Man might show up, maybe a Mechaneck might show up, but they have to save those Tier 1 figures, those Tier 1 characters, for marketing that year's line. I don't mind secondary tier characters at all. I mentioned to someone, if this 3-pack was Glimmer, Queen Angela, and Hunga the Harpy, I would have loved the hell out of it, and I would have been fine with it.
Yeah.
But because it's characters I barely remember and I don't have any connection to, I just don't care.
Yeah. I mean, the Star Sisters, there are a lot of fans out there, and, I'll give them their props. For it always seems to go that way with people that are fans of very shortly seen or short-lived characters. They become very ravenous because that's all they get is that one shot, and they're like, well, I always wanted to see more but never got to see more. I get some people are excited, some people are just whatever. Some people like you are like, I really don't give a flying fuck about these figures. Yeah. And that's kind of shitty to be all in on a subscription like that and to be like, well, I have no choice, I have to get these figures. Yeah. So I don't know, brother. In closing, for me, because I got to get to bed.
We're gonna take a quick commercial break and then we'll come back to close the show.
But I wanted to close now.
No. Commercial first, then we'll close.
Why do you make it so hard to love you?
Shut the fuck up. We'll be back after this.
Hey, I'm Gary.
I'm Greg.
I'm Chuck.
And I'm Justin.
Join the four of us every week on the internet's #1 G.I. Joe podcast, What's on Joe Mind? That's right. It's Joe news, reviews, and special guests like you've never heard them before delivered right to your MP3 player.
Think of it as Joe Talk meets Sports Talk. And we make fun of Chuck.
Right, hey.
We're just kidding, Chuck. Kinda.
Yeah, sometimes Chuck makes fun of himself.
Right, hey.
It's What's on Joe Mind. Every week on the GeekCast Radio Network, InsidePulse.com, Stitcher Smart Radio, and iTunes. Download and listen today.
Can I say something about Transformers?
No!
2012 marks the 30th anniversary for Masters of the Universe. We here at the GCRN are celebrating with a brand new series of podcasts. The Powers of Grayskull series will cover every episode of every MOTU cartoon. Yes, even that crappy New Adventure stuff. Join Optimus Solo and TFG and Mike as they tell tales of Eternia, discover the myths of Etheria, become masters in space, and finally masters of Grayskull. You can find the Pogs podcasts in iTunes and the web at www.geekcastradio.com. Good journey!
You can now hear the GeekCast Radio Network while on the go with Stitcher Smart Radio. Stitcher is a free use and talk mobile app available for your smartphone. And when you download Stitcher to hear GeekCast Radio, you'll have a chance to win money. Downloading is quick and easy. Just find Stitcher in the App Store. During registration, hit the promo code box and enter GeekCast Radio, all one word, to get automatically entered to win $100. The latest episodes of the shows will be waiting for you in your favorites. You'll get access to lots of other amazing shows too. Always available to you on demand, no syncing. It's Stitcher Smart Radio. Don't forget to enter promo code GeekCast Radio when you register.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Yet another ToyCast episode, special episode. Basically,
I would do my crazy Kermit arms for you, but I'm tired.
Wow, yeah. No, for me at this point, I am a Matty Collector Digital River hater. I still like the products that that Mattel produces. Yeah, see, it's fucking late.
I know, dude.
Mattel produces, but at this point, I am just, a seething, raging hater at this point. Flames on the side of my face and just burning and just. Whereas you're more of an objectionable person because you're not dealing with this shit.
Yeah.
So. Thank you for joining us here on ToyCast. There are so ways to get in contact with us to leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, and comment on each episode post. You can also head over to toyworldorder.com and see what the hell that crazy crew's doing on over there.
That's where I'm from.
Yeah, see Duvall and his stupid Rux Brony obsession.
Hey, don't mock me, sir. Don't mock me.
All right.
You don't want to unleash this venom. You can't handle this. You can't handle the truth. No, you can't handle it.
Right.
I will bring down the bronies and all they stand for upon you, and you shall suffer and quake in fear of us powerful bronies.
Right. Leave the show's feedback in iTunes. Please do this. You can follow us on Twitter. The show name there is TFToycast. Mine is TFG1 Mike. What is your Twitter?
Oh, at Puppet Duvall.
And you can also follow at Toy World Order. Yes. Yep. Become a fan on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/Geekcast Radio Network, and you can also find Toy World Order over there as well. Call our voicemail line. Tell us the show you're leaving the message for and your name. 502-526-5821. We hope you enjoyed this rage-filled hate fest of Matty Collector here on ToyCast. I wish you'll join us next time when we'll be joined by Pecan Court Michael, and he and I are going to be talking about the love that is the 1986 line of Transformers the Movie Toys.
Ooh, there weren't a whole lot of those.
Well, there was a whole year's worth of line.
Yeah.
Cup, Blur, Retgar, Hot Rod, Rodimus. There was a whole bunch of stuff.
That
Galvatron.
was a different time. Those things, they didn't spain those out over a year. They literally came out and then sat on shelves for a year, and you never had any trouble finding any of them.
Hear that, Mattel? That's what you should be doing.
Those were the good old days.
For now, I am TF2 and Mike with.
I am Jason Duvall.
Thank you for listening. Until next time.
Peace out.
Hey, you guys, this is The Mask, and you guys are listening to the GeekCast Radio Network. And you know what? You are smoking!
Do not grieve. Soon, I shall be one with the Matrix.